So we're gonna go ahead and call the July 20th, 2021 CRA meeting to order. Roll call.
Jason Atkins Tubbs. Holly Blount.
Here.
Carrie Bush. Here. Linda Dixon. Evelyn Fox.
Here.
Armando Garni Gomez.
Here.
Jacob Ide. Christopher Merritt.
Present.
Jason Mitchell.
Present.
Warren Nielsen.
Here.
Jay Northwest. Michael Palmer.
Here.
Brad Collett. Stephanie Seawright.
Here.
And Justin Turner.
Okay, we have established a quorum. So we'll move on to, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda with the following changes? We're going to be moving the staff report under communications before the director's report. And we will also be flipping the order on the discussion items, and we will be hearing Hartwood first. Now can I?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
It's been moved and properly second in the discussion. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will have the approval of the minutes. They are included and were emailed. Give you a few minutes and then I will call for a motion to approve the June 15th minutes.
Madam Chair, we got it electronically early on, so I move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and properly second to approve the June 15th minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have communications. There's no chair's report. Mr. Pollard is not here this evening, and I have no report. So we'll move to the staff report.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all in person. So I just have a few things to say about just how the meeting tonight will run. Since this is our first time back in this room, we noticed that there's some feedback on the microphones. So all your microphones are off right now, and we ask that you turn them off during presentations. However, when you need to speak, we ask that you turn them on and speak into them, because the way that the meeting is being recorded, it's only picking up the audio from the microphones. The second thing is that everyone's terms are up in October. So in order to stay on the board, you'll need to reapply. The link will be posted on the city's website. The application will be open through the month of August, and then you'll be invited to speak to your application at the September 16th City Commission meeting. And that's the meeting where they'll make the appointments for the following terms. And an effort, so the way that we had the board set up, all of your terms were 2-year terms. And we realized that after 4 years, that could cause a big problem because the entire board would turn over. So in order to maintain some continuity, the terms that they're appointing in September will be a mixture of 1-year and 2-year terms. So that way, in a year, the entire board won't turn over, it will only half the board, if that makes sense. So I really encourage you all to reapply. It's a pleasure.
Tricia, I have a question. So for the 1 year versus the 2-year term, will you have the option to say you want to do 1 year or the option for 2 years? Or we just apply and you all decide?
That question had come up and I hadn't gotten an answer yet, but I will let everyone know.
Okay.
I have a question. So you're saying that everyone's term will expire in September and we all have to reapply?
Yes.
Thank you.
But it'll be open in August for you to start with.
Yeah, it'll be open the entire month of August. That's all I have.
Okay. Sarah's not here yet. She's running late, so when she comes, we'll go back to her director's report. Next, we have our consent items. I guess we just move to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our business discussion items, and our first item is Heartwood.
Good evening, everyone. Dan Gill, GCRA project manager. How's everybody doing? I'm gonna go ahead and wait for Daniel Blumberg to share the screen. Can everyone see that? Go to the next slide, Daniel. Thanks. So since our last update, GCRA staff ramped up marketing in preparation for sales day with weekly social media posts to radio broadcasts. The team was really pushing to get the word out. Since the launch of the Heartwood website, heartwoodgnv.com, in May, we've had over 4,600 visitors to the website, with the most frequently visited page being the How to Buy page. Prior to sales day, which we'll be talking about on the next slide, the team received about 70 interest forms from potential home buyers. Of those, 41 were seeking dreams to reality. 17 were interested in the showcase homes, and 12 were just not sure which path they wanted to take. On June 16th, staff hosted a Heartwood neighborhood drive-through and open house. The event was a success with over 100 people in attendance, either touring the model home with Team Dynamo or simply driving through the neighborhood. We had local vendors like Hippo Popsicles and Big Island Bowls providing refreshing snacks to visitors, and 98.9 Jams kept the event lively with some really great tunes playing through the entire afternoon. Next slide, Daniel, please. It feels really good to finally announce that Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, homes in the Heartwood neighborhood officially went on sale. Applicants were accepted via the Heartwood website. And as of today, a total of 7 applications have been received for the showcase homes. And I believe 6 are currently under contract. Last week, on July 14th, the Dreams to Reality application window closed. We had a total of 31 applications successfully submitted. On July 16th, that was this last Friday, those applications were given to the city auditor for randomization, and all 31 applicants received notification of their place on the list. And with the first 11 were connected with HCD to begin their qualification process. And as applicants qualify, they will then be referred to Team Dynamo to finalize the home purchase process. I want to give a special thanks to HCD, their whole team, the city auditor's office, and a very special thank you to Trisha Lopez from GCRA staff. She's there with you all today, for making this process go very smooth and getting the team through this. Next slide, please. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Craig Wilburn of Keller Williams, Team Dynamo, the neighborhood realtor, to speak a little more about sales day. Craig? I think Craig is in transit right now. Craig, are you there?
Actually, I'm sorry. I was on mute. I'm talking to myself on mute. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I was like, I'm not getting any kind of response to my corny jokes. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to come on the agenda first. That's really, really, really appreciated. And thank you so much for that opportunity to do that. So yeah, the sales date was phenomenal. We were very excited that we had a good amount of interest. This is, we talked about this in the very beginning, that, people coming into a subdivision and buying vacant lots and building houses and that kind of thing, that's not normal in this price point range. So we were very grateful, though, that we did get, 6, potentially 7 people that actually went to contract on some of those lots. Not all people that are buying in there needed financing. We have a couple of cash people that are buying cash. They just love the neighborhood. They love the concept of it. So we got some really, really positive feedback from the people who are looking at Heartwood and actually committing to the neighborhood right now, which is fantastic. We're going to end up staffing someone at Heartwood in the model center. We're having those conversations right now, where we're going to have somebody on site 5 days a week for about 3 to 4 hours a day. We might have a little bit more hours during the week, and then about a few hours on the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, in case we get people that want to walk in or questions and things of that nature. Actually, I'm getting phone calls from agents who are, asking and inquiring about Heartwood still, and I'm, having them go to the website, and we're having conversations. So the interest is still really good. And what happens with these kind of subdivisions is it's always it's always slow in the beginning, which is why I was excited that we actually have over half the neighborhood is going to be under contract, within the first week. That's fantastic, because usually it's a very slow beginning, and then as construction starts and houses start going up, and windows and doors, and it starts looking like a neighborhood, that's typically when the energy around the community gets heightened, and then people start coming in and buying up all the stuff. And you'll see that in neighborhoods all across Alachua County. So that's all I got as far as the sales date for now, Dan.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. So the image that you all are looking at right now, this is a lot map accommodation graphic we're providing on the website for interested home buyers. And as lots go under contract, the website gets updated. This graphic is on the website under the Purchase a Home tab, and then lot map and accommodations. The ones in brown there are the lots that are currently under contract. And so in the coming weeks, as contracts are executed, and construction will begin on the first homes out in Heartwood. This is a very exciting time in the history of the Heartwood project and the East Side community. And staff will be returning with updates as home buyers are approved and homes begin to break ground. Next slide, please. And with that, the recommendation is to hear this update. We thank you everyone for your time this evening, and staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Any members of the board?
I guess I have a question for Craig, if Craig is still on the line, and then some things that are brought to my attention. So I have several members of the community that say they are calling, and I guess people are calling and not getting through, calling and not hearing back. Are you hearing any of that kind of feedback at all? Oh wait, can you? I'm sorry.
I have not.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing from several members of the community that have contacted me, or I'm hearing as well that have made phone calls to the office, or they're either not hearing back or hearing back. Are you getting that kind of feedback, or has that been brought to your?
Yeah, no, I've not heard that at all. Actually, I know that we've gotten calls, and we've returned every call that we've gotten. So now, of course, if somebody calls, now this is a common thing in our industry, where someone will call a number, nobody answers the phone, but no message is left, and then they consider that a phone call attempt. And then then it's like, well, I try to call, but I can't get anybody to call me back. Well, we don't know who you are if you don't leave a message. And so that does happen sometimes. Not saying that that's the case in this situation, but I have not heard any, but it does happen a lot in our industry, where we get, people that call but don't leave messages, and, to them it's, nobody's calling back. But my understanding is that the calls that we have received, we either have answered on the spot, or if messages are left, they're getting phone calls back. We also get a lot of emails. We have an inventory and a record of everybody that calls in. So if you have anybody that's doing that, what I would recommend that you do is send me their number, and that way I can, personally reach out to them. I have somebody on the team reach out to them and touch base right away if you get that. But we don't want anybody having that experience, for sure.
And I would add to that, Dan Gill here, GCRA staff. I would add Armando, if you'd like, you can send me their contact information as well, and I would just forward that to Craig. I don't know if you have Craig's contact information, but you can send that to me as well, and I'll forward that to him. And
then following up, so some questions of concern were brought to the City Commission about not just the 11 homes that were quote unquote the homes that were going to be put on the lottery, but as well as the other homes. There was a lot of not just consternation, but questions and concerns about who was going to be eligible. And obviously the lottery was a process that was established and being led by the city manager. But in the event of what has been your take so far on the response? And I apologize for the feedback, this is already bothering me. But what has been the response so far to not just the lottery, but the response to the homes, the quote unquote affordable homes, and just overall the process overall, Craig?
Let me make sure I understand what you're where you're asking, what was how has the response been? The response from who?
Let me clarify, sorry. So there's been questions and concerns from the city commission about people having access. It should have been, instead of just the 11 homes, it should have been open to, all of the homes should have been opened up as a lottery, so quote unquote, it's not affordable. But the 11 homes that we like to call quote unquote affordable, or folks are calling affordable, what has been the response to those homes? And then my second part of my question is, what has been the response to the other properties that are not a part of the lottery?
Okay, all right. So for the 11 homes that are available for the Dreams to Reality, they were all going to be under contract. So that's a good response. You know, we had 11 houses and 23, ultimately 23. I think after we checked duplicates and different things and whatever, it was like 23 that qualified, and we got 11, you know, ready to go, and the rest are in queue in the event that, you know, something happens with one of the first 11. So that response has been very good because we only need one buyer for every house. So that's a good thing. For the other, we'll just say the other 22 houses, because I'm not including the model, having 6 of those homes under contract, you know, is good because, like I say, with new construction neighborhoods, the response and the adoption of a new neighborhood is generally very slow in the beginning. So you don't really expect to have a huge, you know, you never know what you're going to get, but usually with most developments, you don't get a huge, not a lot of early adopters. But then as the momentum of the neighborhood gets going, then you start seeing it pick up quite a bit. So I was happy that we didn't get 0. You know, we got 6, and I'm very pleased with that.
The one concern that I was going to have initially with the new construction, as you very well know, and I know there's some realtors in the room, is when it came to specifically the appraisals of home values around the area and being able to get funding for those. Have you been running into any snags with that for funding?
No, I have zero concern about that. I'd be surprised if anybody that's in real estate full time would have any concern about that. If you know how our market is right now, I just sold a house over in Carroll Estates, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,100 square foot house, and I sold it for $215,000. Okay,
Also,
so
all right.
I mean that house was built in the 50s. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I think that I don't think we're going to have, you know, Hardwood is actually underpriced. These homes are underpriced for the market for comparable. So I have 0 concern about appraisal values on these homes.
And then I guess my last question will be, Craig or staff, the demographics of customers, is it diverse, or can you give a breakdown? Or do you have any demographics? Because the notion is that people are being repealed and replaced to move here. It's not going to allow for certain demographics to move in. So can you give us a breakdown of demographics based on race and ethnicity, please?
Yeah, I can't do that, but I can tell you this, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I tell you this, I was very, very pleased and excited when we had the open house day, because what we saw a community of people that love East Gainesville. You know, we saw like Black, white, old, young, Hispanic, Asian. I mean, you know, people that very wealthy, people walking in paying cash, people that were looking at dreams of reality. It was a community of people, of human beings that were like so excited to live in East Gainesville. And that to me was amazing. It was so amazing. People pull up in nice fancy cars and people riding bikes to get there. You know, it was like, this is cool, right? So I think it was a true sign of the population of our city. You know, Gainesville is a very diverse community, and we had a lot of diversity, and that was fantastic because I don't believe in segregating people, and I think that's harmful for culture. And I think that it's really, really exciting to see that that people are looking at Gainesville as Gainesville.
Well, the reason why I'm asking that question, Craig, is because I brought it to some staff, but I want to bring it to your attention. There's been misnomers being put out there that Black folks cannot live here. This is not for African Americans to live there. That's been put out. It's been on social media. I want to, and what I've asked the staff, and I've never gotten a real answer to that, is what are we doing to dispel and dissuade that this is not for people of color? When I define people of color, I'm talking about Black people, you being African American as well. What are we doing to dispel and dissuade that?
Well, this is a little bit of a challenging, topic for me personally because, I don't think that has anything to do with real estate. So, what we're in the business of is we're in the business of, creating communities, selling homes, that kind of thing. We're not looking at people, in fact, we have rules and ethics in our business and our industry that we're not even allowed to even engage in conversations on race and diversity and ethnicity and national origin and marital status and all these kinds of things. So that's not a topic that I would delve into. I think it's a lower level conversation. I think really the focus of Heartwood needs to be on community empowerment, on creating opportunities for people to be able to get into home ownership. The 11 families that qualified for the Dreams to Reality program are going to have a life-changing experience, generational changing opportunities. And that's all I want to talk about is that, what are we doing in that neighborhood to create a community of people who are going to get into a great part of Gainesville, have a lot of equity built in, and to be able to have the opportunity rather than renting and giving away all their money for generations like my family did. I grew up as, one of the few people in my family to ever own a home. And so most people in my generations, they rented homes and they gave away lots of money, were unable to build wealth. And generations around me, people were not able to build wealth long-term generationally because they couldn't get into home ownership because the system was designed against them. So I think the conversation needs to be, rather than worrying about who's Black and white and this and that, let's worry about how do we create opportunities for all people to be able to acquire home ownership and to be able to set up opportunities for the generationals so they can begin to build generational wealth for their families.
So Craig, I can appreciate that. So if Craig can answer that, Ms. Bowie or somebody on staff, because while I appreciate that, and you are absolutely correct, and I do agree, what we do have and what we cannot dispel or we cannot say that is not there, the power of social media. So Craig, I respect the fact that you can't necessarily address that. Ms. Bowie, do we have any marketing plan in place? Because what is disconcerting for me, especially as a Black man, is that there is people telling people that look like me that this community is not for them. And for other people of color that want to have state-of-the-art housing and to be able to move into state-of-the-art housing, to be told that it's either not affordable or it's not for you, that's problematic. And so people that want to be able to accumulate wealth or own land or be first-time homeowners, that's disconcerting. So what are we as staff, whether that be Dan Gill, Ms. Bowie, or somebody, do we have a marketing plan in place to address that and dispel that as a city? Because it should everybody.
We don't have, and Wanda, we don't have anything. You can't do that. You can't market a neighborhood to dispel that. I think we have to be able to know that we live in a society where everybody is focused on race about everything.
That's not what I'm asking.
Go ahead and finish, Craig.
That's not what I'm asking.
Yeah. So, the thing is that, again, I don't know who's saying, honestly, I've not seen any of this before. So, and I'm on social media all the time, I've not seen it. So I don't think I don't want to create a narrative that there's some large presence of people saying Black people can't live in the neighborhood, because there might be a few people saying that, but the people that I talk to, I've never heard anybody say that before. The people that I talk to, that I see that are going over about Heartwood, everybody's been very positive. There was more Black people at the open house than any other demographic. So if you want to look at a demographic, I can tell you that there was more people of color that were at the open house walkthrough we did than any other single demographic. I was excited that there was a plethora. It was literally every demographic was represented. I can't even think of a demographic of human that was not there at the open house. So I think that's the part that needs to be talked about. You're going to always have people that want to be negative, but I don't have any room for that in my conversation. And I don't see that happening in most places. So I think the majority of social media and things that I have seen have been very positive towards Heartwood. People have been excited about it. I know there are people of color that are under contract and on the Dreams Rally and on the regular one and on the market rate homes. So I think that's the narrative there.
Ms. Vidal, can you or somebody from staff, and I appreciate Craig's answer, but that's not what I'm asking. We can't pretend we're sticking ostriches in our head in the sand. It is existing, and I'm not saying, the narrative is not saying that we're pushing for just Black people, but to also target a group of people and say that they can't live there is problematic. And that's what I'm getting at. And Ms. Vidal knows, because I've shown staff that it exists. Can anybody address that from staff?
Yes, Chair, if I may, Sarah Vidal, Jasire. So we do have a marketing plan. It was presented at one of the former presentations, so I'll have Trisha send you a copy of that. But the big marketing push for us were the 3 events that we held. The 2 kind of online information sessions, and then, as Craig has mentioned, the open house, which was, I think all 3 were well attended. I wish we would have had more at the informational sessions, but all the information we talked about was already on the website. And we know that we've had a lot of traffic there. And I think what might help the board too is for us to kind of bring back some of the statistics of the traffic that we're seeing on the site. And that is very, very good data. We can start putting that together for you. But a big piece of the marketing was the partnership with Team Dynamo and the information that they've put out there within the real estate community and beyond. And so it's really a team effort, but I can't speak to all the details in the marketing plan, but I'm happy to get that to you.
Mr. Grundy Gomez says he's good. With any other board members?
Helen Harris has her hand up.
I'm sorry. Any other board members right now? Mr. Member Palmer. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, just making sure it's fine. Yeah, I guess I wanted to see if we could, or I guess I just really wanted to say that, I mean, first off, this looks amazing. I can't believe this response. Having that many cash offers is, on that many homes is unbelievable. I think it looks really great. The one question I had is really more around construction costs and, how widely they have kind of fluctuated since we started these conversations. Are we still on target for some of the same pricing, and or do we have any plans in the event that some of these construction costs go down? That, I guess I'm curious as to your thoughts on how the construction prices are going to play out over the next few months. I mean, I know, you can't predict that, but are there any contingency plans for the people who are either buying and or selling those homes to be able to make sure we're hitting those initial numbers we targeted without, too much negative impact on either the builders or anybody else financing this?
So, I guess I can tackle that unless somebody else on the team wants to do that. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, I'm muting. So I feel like we have kind of a layered approach to this issue. There's a couple different moving parts and pieces with this. So the short answer is that we will soon find out because once we have these folks under contract, then we will be getting the proposals from the builders. But we have been in close contact with the builders. So we have 3 kind of small, local, diverse vendors. One thing that Dan has been doing with this project team is meeting with the person who designed the homes to kind of look at, what costs are higher than others and how we might kind of compensate without, compromising the quality of the homes, which is not something that we're willing to do. I know that some prices have come down recently, and I think that was reported back to Dan from some of our contractors. But, I think by the time we meet next time, we'll probably have a better idea of how those construction costs are coming along. So there is a plan in place as well if we end up in a situation where the cost to build becomes more than we think it's going to be, especially with the affordable homes, because we're the developer in that case. And in that case, it's been set up so that we could obviously go back and reassess how much funding the city commission would be willing, I guess, to let us, add to the project in order to keep the cost to those end buyers what we advertised. And that's with the Dreams to Reality homes.
Sounds great, thank you. Glad to hear that that's in place.
Ms. Harris.
Hi, good evening. Helen Harris, Housing and Community Development. I just wanted to clarify on the Dreams to Reality program. We have just began to reach out to the 11 home buyers who were randomly selected by the randomization process. So at this point in time, we do not know the ethnicity of those home buyers unless they were working specifically with a realtor who may know those individuals. We hope to have some demographics soon because we just sent out email notifications to those home buyers and today with a list of documentation that they will need to provide to our office so we can begin the determining their income eligibility and determining the subsidy amount that they would be allocated. So just wanted to clarify that at this point in time, we do not know the ethnicity. And speaking to what Armando is referencing, I think he may be, I was listening to a city commission meeting where one of the neighbors did call into the commission and made reference to, because she was a former Kennedy Homes neighbor, and she was speaking of that nature that, that they were told at one point in time that they would be able to come back to that neighborhood. And that could be maybe what Mr. Randy Gomez may be referring to, but I have not heard where any African Americans have said that this neighborhood is not for, Black people. But I have heard that it's not, depending on the income level, even with the Dreams to Reality program, that they may not be able to afford to live in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other board members?
Thank you, Ms. Harris. That's exactly what I was getting at. So appreciate the feedback and clarity. And I appreciate all of it, including Greg. Thanks for all the feedback. And I agree, it was a wonderful project. Thanks for all the hard work you're doing.
Any other board members? Mr. Member Blunt.
Thank you. What is the status of that pathway immediately west of Lot 3? Is that a street or an alley or what?
Immediately west of.
On the west edge of Lot 3, some kind of path.
Oh, that's just like a treasury road. It's kind of like it's considered an alley, and it's the access. So the lots on the west end of the neighborhood will have garages on the rear part of the home. And so you'll have the front of the home facing, the main roads, and then there'll be access to those homes through the back alley.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Kali?
Yeah, I'm not talking about the thing that's named West Alley Way. You are talking about the path on the west edge of Lot 3.
Give me one. Daniel, can you bring up the slide presentation with the site on there, please? You mind sharing the screen? 3. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's also, I know what you're talking about, Kylie. That's also another kind of alley / service road, and those will also serve for access to lots 1 and 2 and possibly 3 to have a rear garage access.
But it's a paved, it's a driveway.
Yeah, correct. It is paved, yes.
Okay, so I want to comment that these dreams to reality lots, that comes to 32% of the development, and I would love to see that number happen all over town in terms of mixed income housing. 32% is affordable or workforce. I have a couple questions about the lots that are contracted so far. I actually like that they're kind of coming up in little clusters, you know, ahead of filling up the whole place. That you've got a group together at the south end. You've got a couple of them together up by the east entryway. So I'm thinking that's good that those people don't feel, you know, all alone. There's somebody right there.
It's definitely a positive.
When people come in and they're being told about the lots and the amenities, is the presentation and the availability of model choice the same for people who are able to do open market finance and those who are applying for the dream to reality lots? That is, you know, the dream to reality lots are kind of scattered. And people are getting an explanation of, okay, this lot is right up against some woods, or this lot will feel more urban because it's right near the entrance. And do they get to pick all of the models, or are there certain models that are geared toward the more affordable lots?
All right, so let me just jump on that real quick. You asked this very good question. That's a very great question. And there is kind of, you actually asked like two parts, because you mentioned one about the lots choices. And then now the thing about this particular neighborhood is that all the lots have the types of homes that are able to go on them already pre-prescribed. So now, because of the size and the cost of construction for some of the larger homes in Heartwood, that prohibited some of those from qualifying for dreams to reality, because of the cost of building those would put the person outside of the affordability range. So, you know, they're all the same quality of product. It's just that for the dreams to reality, those are the smaller models. And then the other models have a little bit more square feet because those homes cost more to build. But each person, you know, and obviously the dreams to reality, we will not be having much conversation about that anymore, because those 11 lots are going to be already purchased by the 11 people that were selected randomly. And so those are going to be good. And then the other ones will be, they can pick their lot, and then on that lot, it will tell them which home options that they can buy. So not every home option is going to be allowed to be built on every single lot, because another thing we wanted to do was we didn't want people building the same exact house right next to each other. So staff took a lot of time and thinking and planning to try to organize the neighborhood so that once everybody had a choice of home and lot, that the neighborhood, when it was built, would look like you couldn't tell who was in the dreams reality, who was into this or that. The house is going to be a very congruent neighborhood, and that everybody would love to be in.
Is there a range? What is the range of total square footage of lots? I can see like lot 6, 24, 25, 28, or maybe 27. They look more spacious. So there is a range of square footage of lots.
Yeah, you know, you can just see on that chart, the ones on the western, you know, side of the neighborhood, those that Dan was talking about, have the back alleyways. Those lots are a little bit more, you know, smaller. Some of the other lots are just bigger. So yeah, there's a range, but you can see on that map what's, you know, how the lot is pretty much looks like almost to scale.
Okay, and last question. Looks like there's maybe 14 lots that I'd call double frontage. Some of them are not, 4 of them are not that by meets and bounds, but I would say effectively, just because of where they're located, they would feel like double frontage. And 8 or so of those are corner lots, which everybody doesn't call double frontage. But was there any thought to not having double frontage lots?
Yeah, that's going to be a Sarah That was before my time.
Good evening. I can respond to that. To be quite honest, when we were working with the community on kind of designing this neighborhood, if you will, and starting with a site plan, really we tried to fit as many single family homes as possible on this property, but had a huge stormwater and wetland area that was in super poor condition, that needed to be fixed and also expanded upon a little. So what you kind of see here was a conglomeration of what the stakeholders at that time wanted to see, which was single family housing. And then really, how do we create something that also in the future would connect out to the existing community, so you can kind of see where those roadways are. But Kali, that was really the biggest thing for us, is how do we kind of preserve and improve that wetland area, and just have single family homes, still make it interconnected with the adjacent neighborhoods, and try to get as many homes on there as possible. So that was kind of the exercise and the thinking behind it. I hope that helps.
Thank you. And last comment, I'll take a combination of the live oak and the mahogany on lot 28. Thank you.
Let's get it. Let's get it. All right, I have to hop off, guys. Is there anything else? Can I jump up? I'm a little bit late for my son's game.
I do have one other question before you leave, Craig.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, she said, if you need to leave, Craig, it's fine. They said it would be for Sarah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Craig.
All right.
My question is, Sarah, my question is regarding the land to the west. Are we still interested in a phase B? What is the status of that? Are we still trying to work that land to expand Parkwood, or is that a dead end?
Not at this time. We're not. You're talking about the adjacent property, like the L shape?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We're not. I think, we've been focused on getting this one kind of out the door and going. And then in the meantime, we consolidated and have a whole new 10-year plan. So at this time, we're not pursuing expanding this, since we have so many other initiatives in the area and kind of have a set work plan. So, I would be interested to know if they're interested in selling. We could certainly take it forward, but it would probably have to be for purposes of expanding affordable homes in that area, which would be great. But we've had no directive to pursue that.
Thank you. I'd just like to express that I'm very much for the possibility of more of a good thing. If we're seeing results like this, then we should be working to do more of that if we can. I think Stephanie was saying that the people next door that own that land are not interested in selling.
They weren't they were, but the amount was very, very, very high. And it was not even for the CRA. Another organization I looked at approached the owner, and it's very high. And it's high because of hardwood. So.
Okay, well, that's it. I'd just like to express my support of more of that. We can find more things like that, even if it isn't next door to Hartford.
Okay, any other board members have any comments? I just want to say thank you to the staff. This is amazing. It seems like for me, it's been decades and decades before something happened. So I'm excited. I've driven through. I wasn't able to make the open house, but I did drive through, and it is exciting. Of course, at the time, I had issue with the cost of the homes, but that was years ago, and where we are now, as Craig said, that's where we are now. So I'm excited about it. If they're selling houses for 210 in Carroll Estates, then this is a very affordable neighborhood right now. So we'll go on. Did you add something, Tricia?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Mr. Brown's question about the square footage of the lots. Just tell them that it was available on the website on the lot accommodations page. They're all listed with the square footage.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll move on to our next item, which is the Historic Home Stabilization Grant Program.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Missy. Right, before I start, can everyone hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
You can? All right. All right, let me do a screen share.
While she's loading that up, do y'all know y'all stapling these backwards?
I thought it was on purpose, maybe, to make you think about it. No, that's just the setting on the
All right, are you guys ready? So my name is Chelsea Bakaitis, and I am a project manager with the GCRA. Most of you here know who I am. I've been here to talk to you guys about the housing programs we're working on moving forward. Today, I'm very excited to talk to you guys about the Historic Home Stabilization Grant Program, which is the 5th and final program in our suite of housing initiatives that we're going to be implementing for the next 8 years of the GCRA. In the near future, I do want to bring this program and all 4 of the other programs and talk about our engagement plan and how we're going to get the word out about these programs. So first, I'm going to talk about the program mission and vision of the Historic Home Stabilization Program. Second, I'm going to give you the why or the data behind why the program is needed within the district. Third, I'm going to talk about the proposed program guidelines and application cycle. Fourth, I'm going to talk about how this proposed program supports the community input that was received in multiple different city planning documents. And 5, I'll finally ask you, the board, for comments and recommended approval. So before I jump in, I kind of want to talk a little bit about this picture right here. These are some what is known as Florida cracker houses in what was formerly known as Dell's Quarter. Dell's Quarter isn't a current neighborhood, but it was a neighborhood back in the day. I tried to kind of figure out where it was based off of some other landmarks on some photos I found, and it kind of looks like this neighborhood was in the area between Porter's and Innovation, kind of in that area. Pictured on this slide, I'll go over this photo. This is a house. I don't think the house is still there either, but it was a house located on what was formerly known as Church Street. And I actually do not know where Church Street is right now or what the new name of Church Street is, but if anyone knows, please let me know at the end of the presentation. I'm just out of curiosity. Before I begin about the program specs, again, I want to discuss the mission, vision, and the data behind why the program is being proposed. The mission of the program is to preserve the original character-defining architectural elements of neighborhoods and prevent the demolition of single-family homes. Demolition by neglect is unfortunately a very common occurrence in the GCRA district, especially in our historic areas. What demolition by neglect is when a homeowner or investor allows a historic property to suffer severe deterioration beyond the point of repair. This occurs both intentionally and unintentionally, often because the cost to fix up a home within the Gainesville Historic District, because of local regulations, the age and condition of the home, etc., outweighs the cost to demolish the home and build a new one. It is the hope of this proposed program to help neglected homes with code violations stay habitable and prevent them from becoming dangerous and eventually required to be demolished. Once a house is required to be demolished by Gainesville City Code, many times an investor may step in and buy the property to build apartments or other housing that may not suit the neighborhood's culture and existing population, which brings us into the vision of this program, which also supports the GCRA housing plan. And this vision is to support housing so that it maintains the culture and population of GCRA historic neighborhoods in the long term. Both our department and the planning department has experienced homes that were repairable at one point, but because people did not take care of those homes, the cost to fix them became more and more expensive as time went on, leading to eventually neglect of a structure, making it unsafe to the community. Now I'm going to go over some data. So what is the current situation in the GCRA district? So here on this map, I have the historic districts, but only the historic districts that lie within the GCRA district. Northeast extends up here into Duck Pond, but for purposes of our program, it will just be in these areas. These little blue rectangles are the contributing structures, and a contributing structure is one that contributes historically and architecturally to the historic district. So these homes are all historic in nature, by age and by architectural style. They're significant. So there are 691 historic commercial and residential structures in the district total. 145 of these are historic homes with minor and major code violations since the year 2011. 11 of these homes are currently have code violations. And I want to explain to you exactly what a code violation is. So a minor code violation is when there's minor deterioration of a structure. This could be missing some roof shingles, maintenance needed to a foundation. So maybe the foundation isn't buckling, it hasn't fallen apart yet, but it needs that maintenance put towards it in order for it to not deteriorate further into a dangerous condition. By putting money through this program towards assisting the remediation of minor issues, we could reduce the number of buildings that become dangerous buildings. Minor code violations deal with the maintenance that need to be done to prevent a home from deteriorating and also from developing a major code violation. So a major code violation is the next step before it becomes a dangerous structure. And this is major deterioration like major foundation shifting, a leaking roof, leaning walls, etc. And so after this step, once this lasts too long, a house eventually will become a dangerous structure and not safe for people to inhabit. Also not included on this slide, but some other numbers I wanted to say is there are currently 27 buildings within these areas that have been designated as dangerous since the year 2011. And currently there are 3 historic residences that are deemed dangerous. 2 of these homes are actually in the Pleasant Street neighborhood. I didn't want to exactly point them out just for privacy for people, but I thought that was important for you all to understand. Right. And I guess another thing I should also talk about, so when a building does become dangerous, it becomes illegal for that owner to keep, maintain, or allow their property to stay there. And so pretty much what happens is code enforcement comes and it's either you need to fix up this house or you need to demolish it. And a lot of times it's just cheaper to go and demolish it and sell the property. All right, now I'll move on to talking about the program guidelines. I want to reiterate that this is a pilot program, and so these guidelines that I'm going to talk about take a very conservative approach to fixing these issues. As the need in this area is better understood through the program, we can make changes to the program guidelines for the next year, and we'll be coming back to you folks after we've started implementing this program for feedback on maybe what you've heard or other thoughts. So if we need to change these guidelines in the future, maybe next year, the year after, that is totally doable. So again, the program repairs the homes I mentioned in the earlier slide that are contributing structures and have code violations or are deemed dangerous. Applications will be offered on an annual cycle and given out according to the most critical need, and low or moderate income individuals will be given priority. Investors who aren't homeowners are invited to apply for the program as long as the structure or the home they fix up is sold and becomes homesteaded within 1 year of the finish of rehabilitation construction. So the program reimburses applicants for up to 50% of estimated construction cost. We have no cap on this program. And the reason was that a few years ago, the planning department had implemented a similar program in Pleasant Street. They offered 50% up to $5,000, but they had almost no participation in the program. And the reason was the feedback they received from people who could have applied. They said that $5,000 was too small of an amount compared to the magnitude of some of the necessary repairs on these homes. So we're going to be accepting applications in the fall, probably in October, as soon as next year's fiscal year funding comes by. And then we will rate and rank the applications according to what has the most critical need. Are the applicants low income or moderate income, et cetera, and give grants away until we run out of money. So finally, this program has a need for this program did come forth while we were doing the GCR and reinvestment plan. Many citizens talked about a need for historic preservation. The program provides a very direct community benefit, and in that it works to maintain the culture and population of neighborhoods by keeping people able to stay in their homes. And the project also supports the city strategic action agenda and the new Gainesville Affordable Housing Plan by combating displacement caused by gentrification, which can start with the demolition of homes of long-term residents and families who cannot afford to upkeep their homes. I will now move on to the GCRA Director recommendation. The recommendation is to approve the Historic Home Stabilization Grant Program as presented, once approved by the city attorney as to form and legality. So after this presentation, we will take your recommendation to the City Commission. Thank you.
Who wants to go first? Mr. Pong, Member Pong.
Me, I'm always ready to jump on something like this, but cool. I really like to see this program. I think it's a really interesting start. Can you, I guess, expand upon the, there's the little bit of the fiscal note on the University Heights district about using TIF funds there. I had initially had a little bit of indigestion about this, thinking that, you know, people over there in the University Heights area, typically those homes, at least in this historic district, as far as I see it, those tend to be rental houses, student rental houses, and those type of homes. So I was a little worried that we were going to be subsidizing one of the main things that Gainesville is trying to generally not subsidize. But can you touch base on that using TIF funds for University Heights, just in case everybody didn't see that? Because I think that's actually a very, very good solution for this, because then it creates, separate funds, sort of.
Yeah. So a lot of it is that we have the funds left over from CPUH. We hope that the requirement that a home must be homesteaded, owner occupied by within 1 year after the rehabilitations are made. And it needs to stay owner occupied for 5 years after that. We hope that that would prevent it from becoming student housing or student rental housing.
Even within 5 years, if they turn around, that's some of these type of projects, that's $30,000-$40,000 we're giving them, which, 5 years down the road. But I think if we're using those funds, because as far as I know, we don't really have a whole lot planned for those sorts of funds, for the CPUH funds at this point. I guess just a general statement. You said you do have a sort of a map of where the current major code violations are, and kind of, can you talk to, and maybe I missed this, about how many in the, say, Pleasant Street or in the, northeast or southeast areas are out there? How many of those are over there versus the ones that are over in University Heights, or how that breaks down based on those districts?
Yeah, so I don't have it broken down by district per what's going on right now, but I have the code violations that are current and since 2011. So since, here we go. So University Heights South, which is this area, there's been only 17 code violations since 2011. University Heights North, 35. And then Pleasant Street has had the most at 74 code violations since 2011. It's also important to note that currently in Pleasant Street, there are 3 homes that are there are 2 homes that are deemed dangerous in Pleasant Street. In Southeast, there's been 10 code violations, and right now Southeast also has 1 home that is deemed dangerous. And then in the Northeast, this area, which is pretty big when you account for Duck Pond, but we're just counting for the area within our district, that's had 9 code violations.
Do you have any sense for some of the ones that have the major code violations and are deemed dangerous? Do you have any sense of whether the existing owners have any interest in redoing them, or whether they're going to be the type of thing where we're going to be trying to market those homes around this program, looking for other people to do that?
I have not reached out to homeowners. When I've talked to people in the community who own different historic homes, but I haven't talked to any of the homeowners we've identified as having a dangerous structure. So I couldn't answer that, but that's something maybe I could answer in another year once we start implementing the program.
Is any of that information on the homes that are, just to clarify for my own curiosity, or any of those homes that are listed dangerous, is that public record information that other people can find easily?
Yeah, it is public record information.
So I have a couple of questions.
And I do too.
So my first question is, in the financial note, it just says, it has, talks about the amount of money that's still left in that neighborhood pay program. So are we eliminating the neighborhood pay program and moving that money to this program? Anybody? Carol, Tricia?
Which fiscal note are you talking about? Are you talking about?
The fiscal note says, the neighborhood and GCA, CWC partnership have 72,000 budgeted, so.
Yeah, so that's all coming from the same, bucket. So
Okay.
we're hoping, we're going to be asking for 250,000, I think. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, for fiscal year 22. Most of these programs aren't going to be able to be implemented until fiscal year 22, but I couldn't put that dollar amount on the fiscal note.
Okay, but really, I'm not concerned. I'm good with the money, the amount of money. I'm just asking, is the paint program being eliminated?
Oh.
Because if you're using this money for that, all right, that was my question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Sometimes this is like with the sound in your room and then coming through mine, it's a little echoey, so it's a little hard sometimes to catch everything. But no, we are not eliminating the.
Okay. And then I did have a question. When we were talking about the 50%. Well, before I ask about the 50% reimbursement, the historic neighborhoods, and I see you got neighborhoods listed, but are you saying historic as in we got old houses in the neighborhoods, or the neighborhoods that have a true historic designation like Pleasant Street? Because they have a true historic designation. There are other areas that there's not a historic designation. So how we determine what's historic? Are we going by age, or are we just basically going by the structures that have the major and minor structural problems?
So we are going by the structures that are A, they have to be in the historic district, and B, they have to be listed in the historic district as a contributing structure. And so the planning department has identified 691 commercial and residential structures as contributing to the history, the finding of historic importance to these districts. So we're just taking straight from that list to make it simpler. Unfortunately, this does mean that certain neighborhoods that might also have historic homes like Borders or Fifth Avenue would not be included in the program, but this is something we could revisit.
That's why that was exactly why I was asking the question. And so, so my concern, I like the program, but my concern is we're talking about the 50% reimbursement. And you said that before that, I guess the planning department or whomever had the program before and they did not have any applicants. Are you feeling like you don't have any applicants? Because to me, it's the same problem, gonna be the same problem if you're having to front this money and then get it reimbursed, especially when you're talking about some of these structures, and the cost of construction and everything. Now, I'm just concerned that we won't be able to find people to participate in this program because of the cost that it might cost them to put out front before they can get reimbursed. So have you kind of looked at that?
No, we were planning on revisiting to see who applied and how popular it was, and then tweaking the program as needed in the future.
I don't know that this is something I could qualify for or fit into, but I mean, my first thought with this was I'd love to see a list of these homes, and then I, as a realtor, can go over and talk to people and say that I know who are, looking for houses, and I can say, hey, we know that it's going to cost $40,000, $50,000 to repair the foundation of this house. You're already planning on doing a renovation. You can find a renovation in Pleasant Street and get $25,000 off on it for living there. So I think if there is a marketable opportunity if we show this program to realtors and all the people that are looking for property right now. That's at least my outside opinion on it.
But they have to already be living in it, from what I understood. You can't be getting ready to buy it.
Or there's the contingency of it must be homesteaded within a year of after the fact thing.
Let me let this watch here.
Yeah, I have a question before the about Fifth Avenue and Ford. Those are, both of those neighborhoods are historically, are historic neighborhoods, the culture. And recently everything has kind of flipped in those two particular neighborhoods, particularly in Porters. That is one of the, and Fifth Avenue, they are the two oldest neighborhoods in the city of Gainesville. And it has made a complete change. I don't know what happened and who did all the permitting and everything. they were given no consideration, like take Porter's for instance. If you would drive 6th Street, the culture of that neighborhood has been completely turned around with the big 2-story houses. And then they tore down all the little shotgun houses. I guess it didn't belong to the people that actually lived there, but it was a part of the Porter's neighborhood. So what, are they not included in the historical CRA district? My question, why aren't they if they aren't?
So to answer the questions, they are not. These districts are created by the planning department, and
I didn't hear that.
these districts are created by the planning department, and to get that designation, it means that if you own a home in that district, you have to follow certain regulations when you're fixing up your homes, which can be cost prohibitive, which is why we're only focusing these programs on those neighborhoods where they have those requirements. They have those historic design guidelines and other requirements that can.
I understand what you're saying. However, if the culture of these neighborhoods, and they're both were African-American neighborhoods, and planning has come in and changed everything, just like in Pleasant Street and over there in the Power District. You can't do certain things in those neighborhoods. You have to paint a certain color and all of those things. So why isn't it that way in the historically Black neighborhoods? You all did not even address that with when you were doing the planning. You all are planning is just letting these out of town developers come in and disfigure these historically Black neighborhoods. And that's really concerning to the citizens of these neighborhoods who have been there for years and years. And it's not even included, you're saying, in the GCRA historical neighborhoods, period. And that is something that I think most of the people that live in those neighborhoods would like to see. The people in Portage, for instance, and Fifth Avenue, they are really, really disturbed about the type of structures that are coming up in their neighborhoods, and they don't know anything about it until the construction has started. And that is a concern. So we need to, I don't know if it's this board, planning, whoever, we need to keep the historically, I'm saying Black because I'm Black, neighborhoods, in the culture it is, because right now they are disfiguring everything in Portis and everything on Fifth Avenue. And I don't know, we need to do something and it has to be addressed right away. Thank you. Member Blunt.
I'm very interested from that point as well. Your third slide, was it the third slide? Or second or third slide talked about maintain culture and population of historic neighborhoods long term. And this is something that's concerned me about CRA over the long term. Ever since the earlier written development plan for Fifth Avenue Pleasant Street was revised under CRA leadership to eliminate a chapter named anti-gentrification. And I wonder if anybody has yet found that chapter in the archives or wherever it might be. And certainly dropping in a 1,000-bed student high-rise into Fifth Avenue did not comport with that idea of maintaining the culture and population of historic neighborhoods. Now, I know that I'm told that some years ago, residents in Pleasant Street decided that they liked historic designation for the whole neighborhood, whereas the Fifth Avenue side, a lot of people said, oh, wait a minute, that means restrictions. So on the Pleasant Street side, you have a historic overlay of the neighborhood, but west of 6th Street, you have just certain buildings individually designated historic, and usually if some owner pursued that, you know, if you go around the neighborhood and see those plaques on the front, somebody went out and works to get that. In some neighborhoods, older buildings have had some updating over the years. Where, you know, if you see a house from 1930, but it's got vinyl clad windows, that kind of blows the historic designation. And the people there today, you know, they say, hey, I'm in an 80, 90-year-old house, but it's had some ahistoric updates over the years. Would they still be able to go after this kind of assistance as a historic structure?
Yes, they would be if the house was lit on this list of contributing structures.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Bush. Ms. Bush.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, would it be possible to move forward with 100,000 for those neighborhoods that are designated as historic by kind of the nature of the planning documents, et cetera, but then also make available some funding for any historic facility, home, residential home that is within the entire district that has a violation. So it seems like we're targeting two things with this program. Number one, it's a historic home. Number two, it has some type of violation or could be potentially dangerous. So would it make sense to, maybe since it's a pilot, explore both options and have the majority of the funding? I understand why you're targeting the historic districts to keep, kind of the designations as a historic district. There are additional steps that those homeowners have to do when they go through the permitting process in order to bring those homes up. So I understand why you're targeting those districts, but I don't see if there's funding available, I don't see that there would be any harm, and maybe it would be even beneficial to other neighborhoods as well. If we could test it in some of the other neighborhoods and explore, again, if this is a kind of a pilot to see if there's demand, there could be some value in exploring kind of an and model, not an or.
I have a follow-up question. I understand what you're saying to pilot the two you just described, but what about these historical Black neighborhoods? We're just going to forget about everything that's going on with them. That was my concern. I feel like those neighborhoods are completely left out of the scenario here. Nothing's mentioned about them at all, and then you're saying, let's just go ahead and do what we have with those two. Well, I have to object to that, Member Bush, because I feel, and a lot of people that live in these neighborhoods feel, that we are completely being left out and overlooked. I just feel that.
Can I clarify? So my comment was to make that second pot of funding available to any historic home in the entire CRA district, which would include Portage neighborhood and other historically Black neighborhoods. So not restricted to only those that are designated historic.
So the first step that the homeowners will have to do is to become historically designated their house or their home. I'm talking about the entire neighborhood. That's what I'm talking about.
So I think where we're getting confused is the word historic and the designation. Because there's because there's only certain homes that are historic. And those, she's not even talking about the historic district, because from what I'm reading, it just says to repair historic homes. So those are homes that are on this list that they have been deemed historic, that's within the CRA district. So that's the thing, I agree with everybody, but I like Ms. Bush's idea, because Ms. Bush's idea gets to what you want to see happen. Because a lot of homes in Porter, they aren't historic. We just say that the neighborhood is old, it's the old neighborhood that has its own culture and feel. And I think that's what, so they necessarily probably aren't on a list to get their homes restored. So I think what Ms. Bush is saying, which I would agree with too, is if we're gonna be utilizing funds to help persons who have code violations get their homes up to par, then it should be open to any home in the CRA district. Now, whether it's a certain number that go to historic only homes, and whether an additional pot goes to all the other homes, everybody should have it. I feel, and like I said, I don't know everybody who lives in a historic home, but from the time that I spent having to figure out the difference when I was working for the CRA between Pleasant Street and Fifth Avenue, is exactly what Member Blunt said. They have this overlay, so mostly every house over there is probably 9 times 10 going to be in its history. And we've even tried to help some of them, but they do have regulations on them, even to the color of the paint that can be used on their home. Versus when you had the Fifth Avenue side, we had the paint program and we were able to help persons, but their homes weren't necessarily historic designated, so they didn't have to have those different things, but their houses in disrepair too. So if we're gonna, to me personally, this is my own personal opinion, if we're gonna be putting money into doing pretty much rehab jobs, we need to do, I think it should be not just for those persons who live in a historic home, but for any person who lives in a CRA district or boundary or however they map it out, who has that need, who has those code violations, because a lot of people with code violations that I go to, because I do home rehab for my job. And there's a lot of them that we go to that we got involved because they had code violations. So they weren't necessarily historic designated homes, but they were old homes. So that's what I would like to see in this program. I wouldn't be able to agree to this program, vote yes for this program the way it is right now. But with some minor changes, I think it's a good start to some of the things we'd like to see done. Oh, I thought something. I'm sorry. Member Palmer.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think leaving Porters out of this. I mean, I live in Porters, but I'm not what we consider typically historically Black for living in Porters. But I do see what you're seeing there. I do want to make the note that the stuff you're seeing on 6th Street go up is not an out-of-town developer. It's actually people who are in town and have lived in town for the second generation, Gainesville person. But I do see what you see there, that is not maintaining the integrity of the community. And I really think if Porters is not included in this, I think we're doing a massive disservice to the community there. My place would not fall under this, but I think if there was some designation of specific ages for these type of homes in say Porters, anything built before, let's say, just for the sake of a number for conversation, 1978, that's lead-based paint requirements for housing stuff. So it's kind of a standard number, but we know that there are a lot of homes that were built prior to 78 that are over there that could benefit from something like this and could see long-term effects from it. So I'm on the same page that unless there is some sort of provision for Porters, I don't think I'm ready to move forward with this. I'm wondering if we should offer a motion though to that because we need to provide is there a time we're trying to get this approved by the commission to be able to enact this?
I can speak to that real quick, Sarah Vidal. So Chelsea's worked really hard to get all these housing programs kind of together so that we can release them in a very, I'm trying to think, like proactive way. One thing that we would like to do is hold a community forum to explain all the different programs, because I think we have 5 now. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they're all very different, and they're all meant to kind of pinpoint issues that were raised during the consolidated planning process. So this is the historic piece, and so what we were hoping to do was to kind of market them all at the same time, and then hold this event where folks could come and actually apply and sit down with somebody and talk, and we'd have some kind of forum to kind of talk through each program. I hope that kind of helps, but we were hoping to, I think, move forward October 1st, when in that time frame, as far as making everything available.
So would we have a little bit of time to discuss this a little bit more? Because my big concern with this is that I think you've got an awesome, we've got a really awesome suite of programs, but I'm very hesitant to, I don't really see much that actually really speaks to porters within these programs, and trying to make, that a lot of the houses that I see in porters that could benefit and would benefit from these type of programs may not necessarily qualify, just because of their location, not because of a lack of need, or
and not just quarters, but any of the neighborhoods that are within the GCRA district that have those type of homes. Porters of need, you have the Fifth Avenue, you have the 9th Street neighbors that's over behind McDonald's. All that's and there's a lot of different neighborhoods that might have homes. I mean, you drive through, you see the great home, and you see a home that's been vacant, or that they don't see a home with people living in it. You didn't even know people were living in it. You just roll by, somebody come out. So I think there are a lot of places. Yes, we want to focus on porters, we want to focus on Fifth Avenue, but we want to focus on it. I want us to get to the point where we're focusing on the whole GCRA on some of these programs, so we don't look like we're here to just feed those, because there are a lot of people in a lot of our neighborhoods within the GCRA that need this. And I would like to see it go back, as well as Member Palmer and maybe others, to kind of to add that. Member Blunt.
I'm in favor of the changes you're talking about also, and I know they can't be done on the fly right here today, so this is going to have to come back. So I want to ask staff, is it possible to update that panel that says the data? Can that be updated to include all residential? What I'm most interested in is the residential more so than the commercial, and the current violation. So even if going back to 2011 is kind of unwieldy, can we get an update when this comes back of current major outstanding residential code violations in all residential structures in the district, not just the ones designated as contributing to historic.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
May I speak real quick? So since we're on this slide, I just wanted to point out that there's the number 691 historic contributing structures. So that number, we know, includes both commercial and residential within the district. As far as we know, planning did not have a map that kind of separated the two. So yes, we can easily go back and look through that data and figure out how many historic contributing homes are located within the district. But I would look at the number. Right now, we have 11 current outstanding residential code violations. So if we expand that to the entire district, just to any home within the district that is a historic contributing structure, I think that might address most of the concerns that you're speaking about. I think our effort, and the reason why Chelsea kind of went to this data was thinking about kind of the nexus of the existing historic districts. And I understand there are neighborhoods that are not deemed historic for certain reasons. I will say, just from my experience, and I think Stephanie spoke to this earlier, that living in a historic district does put a lot of rules and regs, over your structure. If it's contributing, that does cost more money. And so that, in order to address, I remember when we did the homes in Pleasant Street, having to purchase really expensive windows for those homes because the muntins had to be a certain amount of thickness, right? And so I remember our contractor saying, wow, these are homes that these are windows that we would see in some of the like really pricey new neighborhoods that are being built, but that was required based on what we were developing. So I think that is kind of what we're trying to address, are people that are living in these homes or wanting to purchase these homes, and understanding that the regulations over those districts can be kind of hefty. But I think people outside of the historic districts can benefit as much. I think what we're trying to do with these programs would be to start a little bit smaller and to see kind of what the feedback is, because we're getting, we're rolling out 5 different programs at the same time. But I do think it would not be a bad thing to kind of expand outside of the historic districts and just say any residential contributing structure could qualify. And if the board agrees with that, then feel free to make a motion to that effect. We'd be happy to go back and do the research and get the exact numbers, and then take it to the commission after you've had a chance to review it again.
I'd be willing to make a motion towards that.
Okay.
All my comments.
Yes, I had a question, but first I'd just like to say I do support the and model and making it broader and looking at other historic and other properties and structures that would benefit from this program. I was wondering if we could explore the county's interest in this, in that they are also committed to some of the same things that we're trying to do, and if they would be willing to also look at this and partner with us in covering some of these areas.
Anybody else have any comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
I follow up these questions. When you mentioned the county, you're talking about outlying areas like Archer and...
No, I'm talking about the overlap in the sense that Gainesville is in Alachua County.
Yes.
We've already seen some of their commitment to projects along the Waldo Road.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking about, they have a work plan that's in the interest of some of the things we're interested in.
Oh,
I think it should be explored as to whether or not they can partner with us to work this particular project.
Okay. Anyone else? I will entertain what you want to make.
Okay. Yeah, bear with me while kind of trying to piece this together. I don't have a pen on me, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I think I'd like to move that we.
Madam Chair, at the moment we do not have a quorum.
We do not.
Oh.
So we're going to
If you hold on to that.
We're going to hold it till Ms. Bush comes back into the room. Yes, we can.
Okay, can we discuss so that I can help clarify?
Yes.
Yeah, you can start structuring it.
Okay, so just to clarify and be able to work with staff on this, and what we would be asking for would be, I'm thinking that I'd like to see another presentation of this with the updated historic contributing homes added to the list for potential applicants for this project, with some sorts of identification of which ones of those have those major outstanding code violations.
question? So they have to have had a code violation to be included?
That's as far as I understand,
That's the way they wrote the program up.
yeah, that has major structural issues that need to be, fixed to maintain the integrity of it.
Well, I could think of one right there in Ford is, it's the big old White House Miss Shannon used to live in. It's still got the original wooden windows and the tin top and everything. What street do you live on?
3rd Street, but like 3rd and 7th.
Okay, do you know where I'm talking? Right, 3 doors from the church.
Pretty sure I know which one that is.
Now, I know that is a historical building. And I was just trying to put
See, that would be on the list already.
For code violation, people live in the house.
That, a lot of people live in houses with code violations.
So why would it be a code violation if you're living and that's all you can do is live there and maintain?
The standards.
Huh?
There are standards, for structures, for safety.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, there are a lot of people living in homes that have code violations.
Oh, that's bad. Okay, that answers my question, but you do know where I'm talking about, Miss Shannon's house, okay?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah. So I guess I'd like to put a motion for staff to reevaluate this program to include the 691 historic contributing commercial and residential structures in the district.
I'm sorry, can you clarify?
That's what we're already looking at. That's what we're already looking at.
What do you mean?
This is based on historic contributing structures, and we've been saying that it should be expanded for general access throughout the district.
Okay, this is why I was understanding it differently, that there are within the district 691 things that count as historic contributing.
Right.
And within those designated historic districts that are outlined on the map in purple, there are 11 that have major outstanding residential code violations that would qualify them for funds from this program. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think those 11 are only amongst the 691 historic. It does not count the structures that are not designated as contributing historic.
Is that correct, Sarah? Go ahead, Sarah, I see your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you so much. So the 691 number is the entire district. Okay.
No, it's yes. Sorry, yes.
691 is the entire district.
Just,
that number includes commercial and residential. This is a residential program. We have another program, the business improvement grant that you all approved, that helps historic buildings within the district to get the matching grant for doing preservation work. So we're only really looking at residential here. So 11 of the current major minor violations are located within the purple areas now, because that's the area that we were using as our areas to start in to unleash the program. So in my mind, and it's up to the will of the board, I think what you're trying to get to is have us identify out of that 691 contributing structures in the district, how many are residential. And then once we've expanded outside of the purple areas on the map, we will look to see how many of that number have current outstanding violations.
So Sarah, I also want to say the 691 only includes the structures in the district. A structure needs to be in the district to be contributing. And so so if we wanted to, we could do maybe homes built before a certain year, and they would have to show us the deed, or we'd have to look at the property record. That could be another way to avoid having to just stick to these houses in this district. But the 691 includes all these, only these in the purple.
Not outside of the purple.
The 691 homes designated, each one of those 691 homes is designated as historic homes.
Yes, and these are also businesses, commercial, yes.
So and that's what he's asking.
Okay.
So you see what it is?
Yeah. I was understanding that differently.
Yeah.
I was understanding that 691 was across the entire district and not just in the designated purple. Is that's correct? That's correct.
Yeah, so the 691 is only in the purple.
Those are all historic homes. And what we're saying is we want more homes added on top of the 691 that's not historic if they need assistance.
But now those 11 major minor violations, every one of those 11 is historically contributed, yes?
It's a historic home.
Okay, so I'm asking the number of major minor violations within those boundaries that are not.
Exactly. That's what he
have violations.
when he was constructing his.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm not sure how to. I was understanding those numbers differently and trying to figure out how we, feed this into a motion.
So it sounds like what we want, Sarah, is a program that allows us to not also work on historic homes, but other older homes in the CRA district. So that's what we're trying to get to. We want more than just historic homes. We want anyone who has a home before 1964 or whatever 78 or whatever year, that they have the opportunity also to get assistance to get their homes repaired as well.
So what I would recommend is we'll go back.
In the purple, they are not included in it now.
They're not. That's what we're trying to do.
So we need to include porters in the purple.
We record anybody, not just porters, any other areas.
Sugar Hill, where?
Well, as long as it's the CRA district. That's what we're trying to get to. Very well. So I'm sorry, Sarah, I heard you trying to say something.
Well, no, what I would recommend is we'll come back, since you need us to come back anyway, and we need quorum for a vote. We will also bring the criteria for the contributing structures and use that as a guideline for potentially the first pass of other homes that we include outside of the purple areas. And that way we kind of have like a North Star, and let's see what the number is when we do go through the data, and we'll bring those numbers back to see kind of what fits in that category. And if it doesn't seem like it's going to impact, a good number of homes within the areas that you're, the expanded area, right, the entire district, then we could come up with some alternatives for the board and bring those back.
That sounds good. Do we need a motion for you to do that, or are you just gonna do it?
Well, I think
you want to put in a motion?
You could, but you can't vote on the motion, right?
Oh no, we do.
Yeah, we got one.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear the quorum again. Yeah. Yes, I think that would be good for legislative history.
He's putting it together, and we'll make that motion just. Anybody have any other comments with regards to that? And as soon as we get that motion.
So essentially, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
this would change this program to be a home stabilization program for the CRA district.
Yeah.
As opposed to designated historic district.
Yeah.
And staff would come back with certain criteria that we can,
to look at, and that's what Sarah said they're gonna put together, and we're just trying to put a motion together.
Yeah, so I think I'm ready for my motion. I'd like to move that staff will bring this back to us with a list of, or with a number of homes that have been identified that were built before 1978 that would qualify for this program based on their condition that are outside of the current historic districts. But in the GCRA district.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and it's been properly second, been moved and properly second. Any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, next thing we have is public comment. Any additional member comments? Okay, everybody, get home safely and dry as you do.
Okay, thank
And our next meeting is, Tricia, August
August 17th.
August 17th, same place, unless we get. All right, if there's anything else, we are adjourned.